is the name, the name that saved me.
Hi, my name is Greg Campbell, and I am the worship and arts pastor at Lakeshore Christian Church in Nashville, Tennessee.
I've ever needed.
So today I want to talk about volunteers and building a team. And I think the most important thing with building a team and getting volunteers to serve in any ministry is for them to understand and come on board with the vision. And I base my ministry off of 1 Chronicles, chapter 25, and it's where the musicians are called to serve in the temple. And it says this, it says in verse 1, David, together with the commanders of the army, set apart some of the sons of Asaph, Haman, and Jeduthun for the ministry of prophesying, accompanied by harps, lyres, and cymbals. And it says, here's a list of the men performing this service. And it goes on over the next several verses to list the people who serve with them in the ministry in the house of the Lord. And picking up with verse 6, it says this, all these men were under the supervision of their father for the music of the temple of the Lord, with cymbals and lyres and harps for the ministry of the house of God. Asaph, Jeduthun, and Haman were under the supervision of the king, along with their relatives, all of them trained and skilled in music for the Lord. They numbered 288. Young and old alike, teacher as well as student, cast lots for the responsibility. What's interesting to me is there's 288 of them, and they cast lots for the responsibility. Basically what they did was they rotated in and served in the house of God, bringing music to the Lord. Every hour, another group of 12 musicians would come in to serve in the house of the Lord. What I find interesting, though, and what I base my ministry philosophy on are the three things that it talks about each of these people had. Number one, it says that they were trained and skilled. And I believe that, every musician in here needs to be trained and skilled. In other words, I'm not saying they have to play perfect. I'm not saying they should never make a mistake. That's furthest from the truth. But they need to have a skill level that they can keep up on a Sunday morning. Living in Nashville, we have musicians that come in that are touring musicians. And so they play the same song every night, week in, week out. And so they're used to playing their instrument, but they're used to playing the same song. Well, you don't always have that opportunity coming into a church. You have maybe 1 hour rehearsal or a 2 hour rehearsal, and then you're into your services and you're learning new songs every week. So to keep up, you have to have some skill and some ability. Also, it said they were young and old alike. Now, I believe that in the church, we are to build up the church. In building up the church, we need to bring along our young people and train them in the skills that they need to live this life, but also to serve in the church. And one of those areas is music or technical or whatever it is. So at times you may see a high schooler in here, but that doesn't mean that they're unskilled. It means that they have some skill, they can keep up, and we're developing that talent. Lastly, it says they are a teacher as well as student. Again, that philosophy, young and old. You have an older person who is more gifted in a craft, more experienced, can relate a lot of information to somebody who's developing their skill and their craft. And so they complement each other, and it brings good to the church. And again, the overall purpose is to bring music in the house of the Lord to God. So that's really where I base my philosophy. So there's a number of ways that we get volunteers to serve at Lakeshore. The first way is just, as you get to know people, people come and say, hey, can I help? And generally that's an opportunity then to lead them in a direction of service. Also, we've done ministry fairs here where we've asked people to come around and express by signing up for different ministries that they may be interested in. But generally, I don't find that to be the most effective. I think the most effective is again, that relationship. And when people just genuinely come to you and say, hey, I'm interested in serving, it's following up with those people and bringing them on board and teaching them what's expected in your ministry area. So, I try to teach them that it's expected of them that sometimes they'll be a teacher, sometimes they'll be a student. There's going to be young and there's going to be old people on the team. There's going to be all ages of life. And in our case, living in Nashville, we had the professional musician, and we have a weekend warrior who just plays their instrument for Sunday morning services. So we have a wide variety of people. So, but the biggest thing, I think, is just to continue to build the relationships. And if somebody figures out a magical way to just get volunteers to raise their hand and come forward and play or sing or whatever, that would be awesome. I do have some things in place, though. When people come to me and express an interest in serving, the very first thing that I do is I send them an application. Because if they're really serious about serving, they'll fill out the application and they'll go through the process. And I'll explain to them that the process is, number one, application, number two, an interview and an audition, if that's what it is. If it's technical, it would be an interview and training. And generally, I'll pair up a person with another person to do training over time. So I don't just turn people loose on the very first day. Very seldom does that ever happen. So anyway, so an application, they submit an application. It gives me a bit of information about their spiritual background as well as their instrumental or technical background. And then secondly, I'll follow that up with an email that I'll send them information on how they can get training, or I'll send them information on when that interview and audition will take place. And if it's an audition, I'll include things like an MP3 of whatever we're using, the chord charts, any kind of music that I need, lyrics. Click track, we always use a click track here, so I'll send that to them as well because we'll be using that during our audition process. But I'm not looking for the perfect person. I'm looking for the perfect person that fits into our ministry, that understands the philosophy. And so that's what I'm looking for. Anyway, good luck on your volunteer hunting and searching.